So again, I mentioned my name's Eric Byrd. I manage the Small Business Development Center in the county. The Small Business Development Center is a grant-funded assistance program for all small businesses in the county. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we do a little later. To kick things off, I'm going to pass it over to Danelle Hayer. She's the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Manager at Loudoun County Economic Development Department. And I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit, and then she's going to start us off by talking about the grant process, the application that opens up this week. And then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about how the SBDC can support you if you need some help with that application. So, Danelle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, take it over.
All right, thank you for the introduction. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Danelle Hayer, and I really appreciate everyone joining us on the call this morning. I am the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Manager for Loudoun County, and I'm part of a full-service economic development organization where our priority is your business success. So think of us as an extension of your team, and that provides introductions to resource partners within the community. So excited to be here this morning, and I am going to share my screen. Okay, so Eric, give me a thumbs up if you could see my screen. Yes?
Looking good to me.
All right. So I'm going to reiterate this website quite a bit. This is loudonbusinessfund.org. This is where you're going to find all of the information about this round of the Business Interruption Fund. So what I'm going to go over is an overview of the funding, and then I'm going to dig into the actual application process, what you need to be prepared for, and then go through the FAQs, which are on, as you scroll down, all down the right-hand side of this website. So there's frequently asked questions that are really, really good. So I'm going to go over quite a few of those. So the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors unanimously approved the $3 million in additional CARES Act funding for this round of Business Interruption Fund. And what's unique about this round is Purcellville and Hillsborough will be incorporated into this round. So they will use our Wise Hive website, and there will be $5,000 grants awarded to about 690 randomly selected applicants. So as I scroll down here, this talks about Purcellville. So Purcellville is allocated $450,000 from this round. So 90 businesses within the town of Purcellville will receive $5,000 in grants. And then if Purcellville receives more than 90 grant applications, they will get kicked into the county's bucket for the county's $5,000 grant funds. And then the same thing for Hillsborough. Actually, it'll be the opposite for Hillsborough. Hillsborough is going to defer to the county's grant first, and then if there are any additional Hillsborough businesses that were not randomly selected for this round, then they will receive the Hillsborough grants, which is a little bit less than the counties. That's why they're kicking it to the county. So there are additional towns within the county that are offering the CARES Act grants, but they didn't participate with us for the application process. So Eric will talk a little bit more about that. So this application process opens at noon on September 23rd and then closes at noon on September 30th. So there's a weekend included with that to give you some time to get your application in. So with this round, some of the big bullet points that you need to be prepared for. In order to apply, you have to have between 0 and 100 W-2 employees. There are no limits on 1099 contractors. Have less than $5 million in gross annual receipts. Be in operation prior to March 1st of 2020. Have at least a 25% loss in revenue that can be attributed to COVID-19. Be a licensed and operational for-profit business in Loudoun County. And please note, any business that has received CARES Act funding in any shape or form in a grant within the towns or the county in previous rounds is not eligible for this round. So please keep that in mind. Again, the application process opens at noon on September 30th and will remain open until September 30th. One thing that's unique about this round, if you go to the top of the page, you can translate this process, I just clicked on it, into different languages. So if you select, you want this application process to be in Spanish, you just click that box, and then this whole website will be in Spanish. And then we also have, we'll have interpreters on the phone to also help walk you through the process if needed. So there's over, I believe, 200 languages that we could translate into. So, this round, we want to outreach to as many businesses as possible, like previous rounds, but this round, we really want to focus on, business owners that maybe English is not their first language. And so really getting the word out about that. Let's see here. And again, this tells you to sign up for this Business Interruption Fund with any updates here. You want to click and just add your email address. So when you start the process and, there's going to be a box here that says apply. At first, you're going to fill out a personal profile. So it's going to ask you for your name, your first name, your last name, your title, and your phone number and your email. So that'll create your personal profile. And then you'll just click save. And then once you have that, then you will go into the application itself. And then I'm going to go through what it's going to ask you for. So first of all, name of the legal business owner, last name of the legal business owner, business name as listed on your Irs Form W9. And we're going to get into that in a little bit and why you need a W9 form for this application. DBA, trade name of business. What type of business you are, if you're an individual sole proprietor, single member LLC, partnership, trust, estate, it'll give you those bullet points to select. It's asking you for your home address. Is your Loudoun County business address the same as your home address? So you check yes or no. And then it's going to ask you, is your business located in one of the incorporated towns in Loudoun? And then it lists all the towns, Hamilton, Hillsborough, Leesburg, etc. Does your business have an employer EIN number? This is also very important. Do you need translation services when you call in? And it asks you what language you speak. So you'll select which box. It asks you if you have a lease and what your expiration date is on your lease. What is your monthly rent or mortgage amount? And now this is where it gets into the financial questions, and you want to have this information prepared ahead of time so it'll cut down the time that you're on there to fill out your application. So it asks you for actual fiscal year 2018 gross revenue, just the number, and then actual fiscal year 2019 gross revenue. Plug in the number. And then it automatically figures out what's your 2019 average revenue per month. So you don't have to worry about figuring that out. The website will do the calculations for you. It asks you for your fiscal year 2020 gross revenue projected before COVID-19, before the impact. And then it does some calculations for you. And then it goes January 2020 actual revenue, actual expenses, February 2020 actual revenue, actual expenses, and then March. So this is where you're going to plug in your actual revenues again for each month. So have these numbers readily available. So March revenue, taxable income, April actual revenue, actual expenses, and then it goes all the way through, I believe, August. Yeah. So each month you're going to plug in revenues and expenses all the way through, yes, August. And then it's going to have a couple paragraph sections where you could provide a brief narrative. The first one being, how has COVID-19 impacted your business? So you can write in, how that has impacted you. It asks you describe how this grant will be used to help retain your employees and keep your business operating during these challenging times. And you want to be specific as to, is it going to be used for payroll, for rent, for utilities, etc. And then there's another box where you could provide any additional information that you would like to be considered for this application. And then the next part, the only thing you're going to need to attach is your W9. And let me pull that up, and you can just Google search Irs W9 Form. You most likely have never filled one of these out. This is for the county. If you're selected for one of the certified businesses, that your number gets pulled from the random drawing, the county needs this form filled out in order for the county to provide you with a grant. That's all that this is for. So you're going to want to fill out your name, the business name, check the box for what type of business you are. Are you a C Corp, S Corp? Your address, and then either your social security number or your EIN number, and you're going to want to sign it. This is really important. It has to be signed and dated for you to upload it. So again, just Google search Irs W9, make sure this is filled out. This could be one of the forms that you do in advance, so you're prepared. All right. So once you upload your W9 form, it'll go on to ask you some of those initial bullet pointed questions. So does your business have between and 100 W2 employees? And you're going to click yes or no. Does the business have less than $5 million in gross annual receipts? Click yes or no. The business was in operation prior to March 1, yes or no. Again, do you have at least a 25% loss in revenue that can be attributed to COVID-19, yes or no. This business is licensed and operational for a for-profit business in Loudoun County. If you need to confirm your status, you could call the Loudoun County Commissioner of the Revenue, and all this information is right in the application process. So you could call and verify if you're located in the county, you're going to register with the Commissioner of the Revenue. If you're located in one of the incorporated towns, you need to reach out to the town to make sure your business is registered. This is one of the real items in this application process that in order to be a certified business, you have to be a licensed business in the county. So, and again, it does include the contact information so you could call. And I will say it's a seamless process to register your business with the county. You could go to the Commissioner of the Revenue website, fill out your application and submit it. It would take maybe 5 minutes and it's a $30 fee. So real easy, simple process. The application does ask you, just to clarify that you have not received funding in any previous rounds. So you check, this business has not received funding or this business has received funding. So again, clarifying questions. If you are awarded, you will be asked to provide the Economic Development Authority with additional banking forms for financial disbursement. I understand and will comply, or I cannot do this. So this is for you to be able to get that direct deposit check of the $5,000. And keep in mind, all of the information that is submitted on this site is FOIable. With the Freedom from Information Act, obviously we would not provide banking account information, but anything that is submitted is open to the public. So just keep that in mind. And that's, you know, we are giving out grant funds, so it is something that has to be transparent. Once you finish completing this application process, you will click submit and you will get an official Business Interruption Fund application number. This is the number that, if you are certified, will be pulled or called during the random drawing. So once, and also throughout this process, you could save it as a draft and go back in. As long as you hit mark complete by noon on September 30th and you submit your application, you're good to go. But if you do it after 12 o'clock noon on September 30th, you will not be you won't be eligible. So you want to make sure that you see a box that comes up that says this has been submitted, and you are good to go. So that is the application process. I now would like to go through some of the FAQs that are, let's see. So like I said, they're up here. So when is the deadline for applying? Like noon on September 30th to, I'm sorry, noon on September 23rd to noon on September 30th. Business license, it talks about the need for a business license. Previous CARES Act funding, we talked about that. So this is a good one. If you previously received COVID-19 business funding from a state, federal, or private entity, am I eligible for this? So yes, you are. You are only restricted from receiving grant funding from the towns, from the county or towns, if you have already received COVID-19 business relief from the county or towns. Funding from any other sources will not disqualify your application. Some of the questions, and these are all from questions from previous rounds, so you know we've uploaded them here. Do you have to pay taxes on this grant? Yes. The IRS considers this business grant as revenue for tax purposes. So money from this grant should be included when calculating the business taxable income. I am an independent contractor or gig economy worker. Am I eligible for this fund? It depends. And there's some good examples in here. So if you file personal taxes as a 1099 contractor for a business owned by another person, then you are not eligible to apply for funding. If you own a business, LLC, as corp or sole proprietor, that works for clients or for other businesses and pays you a salary, then your business may apply for funding. For example, if you collect a 1099 from a company like Airbnb and file this form with your personal taxes, then you are not eligible for funding. However, if you own a B&B, you're filed as a business in Loudoun County that happens to use Airbnb as a way to book your space, then yes, your business is eligible to apply. For this round, we are only allowing for-profit businesses to apply. If you're having technical trouble, what should I do? We recommend when you're using a browser, if you could use Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. Those platforms seem to work best with our application process. However, you know, if you do need help with anything, you could reach out to myself or anyone on our team, and we will do our best to help you get your information in there. Let's see, if you do need high-speed internet access, you could visit the parking lots of the Middleburg, Percival, or Lovettsville libraries for free high-speed internet. And I talked about, can you save your application and return later? Absolutely, as long as you get it submitted by noon on September 30th. How will my submitted information be used? We talked about the Freedom of Information Act, and we cannot exclude anyone's submitted information from this process. What defines an employee? We could go through these. So a W-2 is an employee. For this round, we are capping the number of employees at 100 or less. And we recognize that each eligibility requirement excludes businesses that need financial support, but the fund is intended as one piece of the county's overall small business support during this trying time. So we're looking at from 0 to 100 employees. Next steps. So once you submit your application by the 30th, then an internal review process will begin. Your application will be assigned to a member of the county government, staff, or town, who will call you between September 23rd and October 13th to confirm your information. So you'll get a call, and we'll say, hey, I'm calling from the county. We're looking to confirm your information, and then we'll kind of go through box by box what you've submitted just to make sure that it's correct. Once all of this information is submitted and confirmed, then the county treasurer, the director of the Department of Finance and Budget, and the executive director of the Department of Economic Development will review all applications to ensure that businesses meet the minimum requirements for eligibility. All vetted eligible businesses will be placed into a pool for a random drawing of grant recipients, which will be conducted in a transparent way starting at 2 p.m. on October 23rd. So that's the date you want to mark your calendars. That's when the random drawing will be. All applicants will be contacted after the random drawing is complete to confirm that they've received or did not receive the grants. At that point, businesses will be required to provide financial information to transfer the funds, which will begin the week of October 26th. So we're going to try to get this money back into the business hands as soon as possible. And then last, we have the translation services. We'll be utilizing both phone interpretation services and written translation services when appropriate to help better serve the business community. All right, so I think now I'm going to kick it back to you, Eric, to help kind of go through how your department can help the applicants.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danelle. So as you are going through the application itself, or as you're getting prepared for the application, there's a number of things that the SBDC can do. There's a fair amount of financial information that you're going to need to have at the ready. So our coaches are standing by to help people who are in application mode, so to speak. One of the good things about the way that the county has deployed the grant is that you create an account online, then you can start your application, and if you get stuck on something or you're not clear about something, you can save it, then log off, get in touch with us. We can help you. The Loudoun Economic Development team can help you figure out what it is that you're supposed to put in that spot, and then you can log back in and complete the application and submit it. So at any point during that process, as you're gathering your material, or if you're in the middle of the application and you get stuck on something you aren't sure, our coaches will be happy to have a conversation with you. We're meeting everybody virtually now, so Zoom is our world at the moment, but we can also do a telephone call if that is the technology that works best for you. Very, very quickly, a little bit about the SBDC in general. We spend time helping businesses with all sorts of things. This is our website, by the way, loudonsbdc.com. We offer two basic types of services all over the county. One is educational events and opportunities, sort of like this. That's why we're hosting this with Loudoun Economic Development. Where you can learn things about how to do business. We've had a number of webinars one of the webinars. We've got a replay here on our site about the payroll protection. There's also a not business as usual retail restaurant webinar that we do. We do that sort of thing. But more importantly, to the thing at hand here, the application, we offer one-on-one business coaching to individual businesses within the county. If you have not used our services before, simply go to our webpage, and then if you click the Meet a Coach box here on the left, it will take you to a page where you can either scroll down and use this handy-dandy form, book a time with a coach. As I said, we're meeting everybody virtually. If you have already met with the SBDC before, and you want to book another session, simply pop that open and you can put in your email address and your name and a short message about what you need, hit submit. Our admin staff will get that. We'll reach out to you with the mechanism to be able to get you scheduled for a coaching session. We've added some extra coaching hours during the application period so we can get to people as quickly as possible. The county is offering translation services. We don't have anything that extensive, although we can work with the county in that process if you need translation or someone you know needs translation. We do have at least one coach on staff who speaks Spanish, and so if you require a Spanish coach, you can do that. If you have not met with us before, then click no, and then what will happen when you click submit is you will be taken to an online form to get yourself set up in our system. You put in your email address here, and it's a simple registration process that asks you some questions and gets you set up in our SBDC system, and that triggers us that you've made the request, and then we'll reach out as quickly as we can to get you scheduled with a coach. So those are the two things that you need to know about getting help with that. Now, beyond the application, we are available to help with more than just the application. Everybody is in a weird state of events going on right now. We all are living with this pandemic and trying to figure out what to do with businesses. So we also are available to just generally talk to you about what's going on with your business and do some planning around that and figure out how to maybe make some shifts or some adjustments, do some pivoting of your business model, processes, whatever you might need to do. Talk about your financial situation, talk about marketing, talk about HR, that we have people on staff who are experts in different areas, and we work with a number of volunteers as well who can also help you. Our goal is to help you figure out how to make your business work. Right now, that's a little different than normally what we have to figure out to make it work, but we're happy to go along and help that. And then I just wanted a couple of notes from the getting ready for the application process. Danelle went through the application pretty specifically there, so I just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things that you're going to want to probably think about as you're getting ready. So first off, have your legal business name ready, as well as any DBAs or anything. All of the paperwork, all of the official paperwork is going to be tied to that official business name. So you may not use your official business name very much because maybe you have a DBA you use instead a lot. Make sure that the main name of the business is your legal name. If you have an LLC, it's the whatever LLC. Then you also will have a place to put your DBA there as well. The other thing is to have your basic business information together already. You're going to need your business addresses, your EIN number, a social security number if you're a sole proprietor. Now, one thing that when we were working with the county staff that was pointed out that I think is helpful potentially, if you are an owner of multiple businesses, you can apply for each business. However, each business has to have its own unique identifier, an EIN number, basically, or a different social security number. So if you're a sole proprietor and do a bunch of different things under just being a sole proprietor, you're probably only going to be able to apply once because you're going to be everything under your social security number. If you're confused about that or you're not sure about that, again, that's something that the SBDC can help you look at and figure out. So have all that information together. The other thing you're going to want to have is your revenue, your gross sales, and your expenses, all your basic expenses for at least 2019 and 2020, but also they're going to ask for your gross revenue for 2018 as a point of reference as well. So you're going to want to gather that information, have that financial information together. Before you start the application, you'll save yourself a little frustration and scrambling around and having things time out. The other thing is that there's a key phrase that Danelle used several times that's really important, and it's all over that FAQ page. It's licensed business. So what that means is you need to have a business license for the business that is applying for the grant, whether that's a business license through one of the 7 incorporated towns or whether that's a business license directly with the county. If you are not sure that whether you have a business license or not, get in touch with the county staff and they can check for you and help you figure that out. And then you can interact with the appropriate person, whether you're in a town or whether you're in the county proper, to get registered and get figured out so that when you apply for the grant, that's not gonna hang you up, all right? And Danelle mentioned a little bit about there are a couple of grants going on. Each of the towns also has the ability to do a CARES Act grant as well. So one of the reasons that you can't get both, so to speak, is the way the CARES Act is written, right? Essentially, that's all the same pot of money. The money comes to the county, and then the county disperses it to the towns. And so it's basically the same pot of money that's just getting distributed around, is essentially a way to think about it. So as of right now, at least, all of that money is one big pot, and you can only dip into the pot for a grant once at this point, which is why they ask the question, have you already gotten a grant with one of the towns, or have you previously gotten a county grant? Now, right now, Leesburg has their grant application is still open until Wednesday, when this new round of the county grant opens up. So some people have already had some questions and asked about, well, what do I do? So if you're very confused about this, again, this is something that the SBDC coaches can help you walk through and kind of figure out. But essentially what's going to happen is if you've applied for the Leesburg grant or you're apply before the deadline, that process will kick off and they will figure out if you are eligible for the grant and hopefully figure out if you've been awarded the grant prior to any drawings that happen at the county level. So the county and the town staff are all working very closely together in all this. They talk all the time. So what is going to happen is if you get awarded a Leesburg town grant, the county will know about it and then they will take you out of the pool for the county grant. Now, there are different amount levels at the Leesburg for the Leesburg grant, and if you're and you have the opportunity to potentially get more money than $5,000, so it's probably, if that's the case, it's probably a really good idea to put in for the town and see if you get it. And if you don't, then you can be in the drawing for the, hopefully be in the drawing if you qualify for the county. So that's kind of a way to think about the strategy. If you aren't, then that might be something that you might want to consider, and that may be something that the SBDC coach can help you think through as well, because there are also some amounts that are a little bit lower. So but again, and all of us kind of would like everybody to get something at this point, right? Any help in a storm is kind of what I like to say. So if you have confusion about that, or if you've already put in, or you've got a couple of days, get in touch with us, go to the website, and we'll get you in touch with a coach. We'll have that conversation and help you figure out what you want to do with the applications. But there won't be any, people won't be, oh, I got a Leesburg grant and then I got a county grant. Oh no, what do I do? That's actually not going to happen because the county and the town are talking to each other. So, and with that, I think that's kind of the basic information that I had to go over. So why don't we open it up to see what kind of questions we have. Katie, you still hanging around back there?
I am.
Awesome. What kind of questions have we gotten coming in?
We have a few. So the first one is a couple of specific questions with dates. Our business was located in the town of Leesburg until March 31st, 2020. We relocated to Loudoun County in June 2020. How can I qualify? The town of Leesburg says they are not qualifying currently because of where they operate. So are they qualified to apply for this round in the county grant?
Danelle, I mean, if you are still located within the Loudoun County boundaries, and you were previously in the town of Leesburg, which by the way is within the Loudoun County boundaries, I would say that's a pretty safe bet that, yeah, you should be fine. Your business, the big thing is that your business needed to exist prior to March of 2020. So if, and is there a specific date on that, Danelle?
You have to be a registered business prior to March 2020. And I know there's some other questions in there with how far back do you go with showing 5% loss? But I just wanted to add for that question, just make sure that business is registered in the county now, because that's an important part of that. And I'll just answer that the 25% drop in revenue. So with this question, you need to show 25% loss in revenue prior to March of 2020. So what that means is, if there were some other questions in there. So if you were open in September, you're going to want to submit what were your revenues for 2019. With this grant, you cannot not have any revenues and then receive a $5,000 grant. So with the CARES Act funding, you can't have a surplus at the end of the year with just this grant funding, if that makes sense. You have to show revenues and expenses in order to qualify for this grant. So I highly recommend, if you're teetering whether or not you qualify, submit your application and we'll determine that on the back end. It might take you a few minutes to fill out the application process. But again, I would rather you get it in and have that chance of qualifying and getting a grant rather than not. So, it's you for every month of 2020, what your revenues and expenses were. So if you had zero revenue for January, plug in zero. And then, go through each month. So I hope that answers that question.
So one of the things that actually applies to the business that kind of closed and moved and reopened, as well as anybody else, there's a couple, actually 2 boxes in the application that ask for you to explain things at the bottom. So there's a narrative about how has COVID, I think it's how does COVID impacted your business, basically. And then is there anything else we should know? Use those, right? And that's actually come from several people in county staff have said that has really been helpful in previous rounds to help explain. One example is a business didn't show any revenue, as Danelle just mentioned. They didn't show any revenue or really any expenses in a couple of the months of the year. Well, that may be because they're a seasonal business and they don't normally show any revenue or expenses during that period of time. So if that's the case, explain exactly what's going on so that the people reviewing the application understand the nature of your business and why it looks the way it does. The key is they're going to be looking across, and they're looking at 2018, 2019, and you'll be asked to do an average monthly number for 2019 specifically, and then that will be a comparison number to the actual numbers you have in 2020. So they're looking at several aspects of trying to figure out, okay, is there anywhere here? It's also why they're asking you for your projections for 2020. What did you think 2020 was going to look like based on what 2019 looked like, right? And then the actuals will back that up. So utilize those sections to your benefit and explain that. And then again, Danelle mentioned the county, somebody from the county is going to call you. So you will have an opportunity to talk about that and explain that and make sure that you have documentation and backup for that as well. That I think that covered that. What else we got, Katie?
There's another question, and you all may have answered this already, but I do want to pose this as a specific date question as well. We opened on September 2019 and closed March 18th for COVID. Reopened June 18th, and sales have not picked up. We have very few financial information. Do we qualify for this grant? Danelle, I know you said that you can put 0 in for months that the businesses were closed.
Yeah, and also with that question, with the business opening and closing, if you made it public that you've closed permanently due to COVID or any other reason, you will not be eligible for this grant. This grant is for businesses that are staying open and, you know, doing what they can possible to make it through. So, you know, if you were shut down due to, you know, governor's orders, you know, that's fine. But yeah, for that question, I would just put whatever financial information you have into those boxes. Like I said, it's going to go month to month. So if it was 0 1 month, put 0. But if you still had expenses, you want to put those expenses.
And you meet the basic criteria of you were open before March.
Right.
You were an existing business prior to, and so you can show some activity. So that you know, go ahead and apply. It doesn't hurt to apply.
Right.
It costs you time, right? So.
Danelle and Eric, if the business extends beyond Loudoun County, serving clients in DC, Maryland, West Virginia, are they still eligible for the grant?
I'll take that one. As long as the business is registered, as a registered business in the county, it doesn't matter who their clients are. So just make sure you're registered with either the incorporated towns or the commissioner of the revenue.
If they are unsure if they are within the town limits, for example, if the business address is shared, but unsure if they're within the town limits, how can they find out?
You could contact the commissioner of the revenue and they will tell you where your business is located, or you could reach out to anyone from our department or even Eric, and you know, we could help you figure that out.
I know we touched on this one earlier, but it is a good question to reiterate. If you have received a grant prior from the county that we have offered, do you qualify to apply in this round?
For this round, round 5, no, you do not qualify.
We did go over this one as well, but again, just to reiterate, there are criteria for the application, and how do you prove that criteria? You had mentioned the financial data that will all be in the system that will be asked of them. Is that correct?
I'm just reading this question.
Yeah,
Sure.
so essentially, you do not have to submit unless somebody asks you for something specific. You're not submitting tax forms. You're not submitting, you know, QuickBooks reports. You're not being asked to submit any of that. You are asking to self-certify, however, that all of that information is accurate. So for the application process, you're going to put in the information that you have, and then that will be followed up on by the county. And actually, I was talking to a friend of mine in the SBA world, and that's just my opinion. This is something that is very auditable. So there is so much money being given out this year that the chances are very high that there are going to be lots of audits going on for lots of years. So you don't necessarily have to supply those documents right now. But if at some point in the future, because you are self-certifying, then somebody may come asking, okay, well, now I need to see your tax forms at a later date if an audit is happening. So I'm addressing the follow-on question, which is, what's to prevent me from putting lots of numbers that look really great and get me money? What you want to do is you want to put the actual numbers because somebody's going to follow up on it at some point, and they're going to find out. So if you do that and you do it right, and you definitely can show the 25% reduction, which a lot of people can. There are some circumstances where I know companies are having a hard time doing that. And again, that's why we wanted to introduce you to the SBDC if you're not already talking to us. Because if that's the case and you're not eligible for this, there may be some other things that you may be eligible for, and there may be some other things we can help you figure out to do. But that's my answer to that question. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Danelle.
No, that was perfect. Good answer.
As part of the expenses, and I apologize, Eric, if you mentioned this specifically, or Danelle, do they need to include all payroll tax information with the expenses?
Yes.
And the way to think about that is any basic business expense that you would have is what the CARES Act legislation was designed to cover. Specifically, rent or mortgage for your business, payroll and payroll expenses, utilities, things like that. Those are expenses that definitely, the legislation was definitely designed to cover all of those. There are some other expenses that, can probably fall under those. One thing that's important to point out, you can't use this money to expand your business or grow your business. And what that means is you can't take this money, and I'm going to use a ludicrous example of, you can't take this money and buy a new boat. Now it's $5,000. You wouldn't get a really very big boat, but you could go buy a boat. That's not an allowable expense, right? So this is to pay expenses that you have already been having to pay: utilities, payroll, related to payroll expenses, benefits, sick leave, things like that, as well as your rent or mortgage. And rent or mortgage tends to be the biggest expense that most people have with their business.
Any other questions? I'm going to put our contact information up. Eric.
Yes, put the contact info up, definitely. Sorry, I was reading a note. I want to make sure we get everything. I'm like, don't miss anything, don't miss anything.
There you go. Yes, any questions, please reach out to any of us. We are here to help. Again, visit loudounbusinessfund.org to sign up for any announcements, and that is where the application will be. So we're here to help.